great match.
It's time now for Comfort Time Live. Comfort Time Live is a call-in radio show educating you on issues surrounding your home. Don't become a statistic. Listen in and find out how you can protect yourself. Comfort Time Live. Comfort Time Live. And now, here's your host, your personal comfort consultant, tackling all of your home comfort issues. Here he is, Tom Platania.
Give it up for him. There he is.
Hey, there's that applause.
The lights are
My head
flashing.
swells every time I hear that.
Wow,
Nobody
man.
ever claps for
Ooh,
me.
quick, take your hat off. You're going to get hurt.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Comfort Time Live. I'm Tom Platania, your host. And as always, we're here to educate you about things surrounding your home. Anything you can think of, from energy savings to taxes. And what our great topic tonight is going to be, we're going to be discussing Chinese drywall. Is it a thing of the past, or is it still here? Kind of like they say in the Poltergeist. They're here. So, and then don't forget, you can go to comforttimelive.com and you can watch us live, audio, video, in the studio with our guest, who I'm going to announce here in just a second. But we have, remember, next week we have John from Elite Electric and Air Conditioning. It's going to be our guest on the show. And remember, John has been a sponsor of Comfort Time Live for, over a year now. And it's great because, you know, what John understands is what we're trying to do to help the community. We're trying to provide a place for people to listen and be able to find out questions to the issues that they have. And that's important. That's very important. So that's what we're here to do. And then we have Steve Larson from Larson's Fans coming up in the beginning of September. And we also have Trendsetter Construction that's going to be coming on in the beginning of August. So we have all kinds of great guests. So do not forget to tune in every Thursday night at 6:05. And if you happen to miss any of the shows live, you can always go to Comfort Time Live and you can watch the show anytime. It's always there on the front or also in the archives. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce our co-host with us today, Howard Ehrsam. Howard, how you been, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to be back.
You're right.
It was,
back.
4 years ago?
Wow,
at
that's
least.
hard,
Yeah.
That's hard to believe.
God,
It's been that long.
you know, it's the more amazing thing is that Howard still wanted to associate with me after this period of time.
After all this time?
After all this time. You know, usually it's 6 months to a year and they're gone. They never want to come back.
It's amazing that he remembered your name.
Well, I've been, you know, constantly contacting him. I'm like, do you still like me? Am I still okay? No.
Yeah.
Am I still on your friends list?
Yeah. Yeah. So how you been?
Been good.
Yeah?
Been good. Yeah, just trying to keep up with everything as the issue morphs and takes its turns.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's amazing that I'm hearing so much. I mean, for those folks out there that are possibly unfamiliar with Chinese drywall, tell us just a brief history on it.
It's it basically is. It actually there's 2 years in 01, 02 there's some of it, but basically it's a gypsum is a mined product, and the combination of the sulfur that was in the ground and bacteria. There's two schools of thoughts, and I think it's a combination of the two of them. So this is in the actual drywall itself, and it creates a sulfide gas that reacts with metals, mainly copper.
Okay.
And that's what and the main thing, the problem that it creates is it eats the AC coil itself.
And that's kind
Creates
of
a
a
lot of
big
pitting.
telltale.
There's a lot of pressure in that system, and it escapes. So you lose your freon, you lose your cooling, and it's a problem, and it's expensive to replace. And you got to keep replacing it over and over again, maybe every 6 months to a year, or
Right.
6 months.
Now, I'd read an article. Did it have something to do with their practices while they were actually getting the drywall out of the mines and stuff like that, or the materials and the mixing process or something? I mean,
Well, it's just when it was mined, it had the sulfur in it, and then it goes through the processing system. And my understanding is that the way they were processing it, there's certain things that they don't do that domestically we do.
okay.
The temperatures that it's baked at that might do certain things, and
I
there's
see.
also organics in it that can be a food source and can also create some problems.
And I guess the reason that we ended up getting our drywall typically wasn't purchased from overseas, right?
No, it's basically the demand.
It was
The main thing was the culmination of the hurricanes and the building boom. When you put those two together, the contractor was actually being rationed. So now you have a contract with Susie Homeowner that has that locked in her 60-day lock on a mortgage.
Right.
And here you are trying to get her house complete, and you can't get drywall. So now you're going to multiple suppliers. You're doing whatever you can. And heck, if you can get Chinese, hey, it's drywall is drywall. So people need
most
to
people have no
realize,
clue.
the contractors are victims too. They thought they were doing what they could to meet the demand, and didn't realize how big of an issue it was going to be. And lo and behold, you kick them while they're down. The industry drops out, and then now they got to go back and replace stuff at their own nickel.
Yeah, I mean, it's well. Hopefully they overcharged enough in the beginning that they make it up now.
Yeah. And they still got that money. Yeah? They saved it because they knew it was coming.
Yeah, right. Tell us how you got your background and what kind of made you get into Chinese drywall when this first started? Because you've been involved in this for how long now?
Well, I had it discovered it in my own condo in '07.
Okay.
And it was fall of '08 is when it first started breaking. It was
Right.
like August of '08 when Lennar and kind of the Banner Supply, and then they were kind of talking behind the scenes, and Department of Health started getting involved. And then my tenant was complaining about the odor, and I'm like, yeah, tell me, what are you talking about? I thought it was in his head, how he's making stuff up.
Yeah.
And then
Turn the bathroom fan on.
Exactly. And then the builder was like, oh, we can try some fixes. Let's try this. Nothing worked. Then they said, well, okay, well, we're gonna have to replace all your drywall. I'm like, what? That's a pretty big deal. You just don't go replacing all the drywall. What goes into that? I didn't think too much at the time. I was busy with all the stuff that was going out in tradition and stuff. And then a year later, kind of fall of '08, meanwhile, I became president of the association. So now I went through it in my own condo. I had a second condo that I still had.
They had a vote on that?
Well, nobody wanted to do it.
Oh, okay, there you go. I was going to say.
So, I got stuck with them. Boy, I got stuck with something, I'll tell you what. And so next thing you know, people are coming to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's Chinese drywall. And then more people throughout the whole community. I'm like, oh, because originally I was asking my neighbors, nobody had any issues.
Right.
Thought it was just isolated. And then all of a sudden the monster started rearing its head.
Oh.
Then all of a sudden I immediately had the big vision. So 2 days before getting laid off, because I was in commercial development, development and tradition. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I was like, oh, I had an epiphany. That
I knew her.
No. And like nobody knows about this issue. You could be a rocket scientist, any kind of expert, but the idea that drywall is corroding your coil,
putting those two
together is just, and then to recognize it and to do the assessments and to figure it all out. So, and I had a huge lab per se with all the condos, and access to a lot of so I did a lot of testing, poking, prodding, figured it all out. And so once I got the come hither, sorry, we don't need you anymore. I was jacked. I got excited. Like, wow, okay, I'm gonna hit this. And the timing was perfect because I got an NBC Nightline, a 6-minute piece on a national TV thing.
Yeah.
Newspapers, multiple news programs, because I was the only guy that knew anything. So
Impressive.
that launched me. That was what I needed to launch, and that's you couldn't script a better way to launch a business.
And I actually, I think I still have those TV spots on my website. I've had them on my website. I actually have a whole entire page. Chinese drywall is one of the only products or issues that I have on my website where I have a whole entire page dedicated to Chinese drywall.
Hey, all right.
And it was because of you when you came on the show the first time. It was such a big deal. And I have those videos that you sent me still on there.
I feel special.
You should. No, I'm teasing. 772-340-1590. The number to call here at the studio if you have questions or comments of Howard regarding Chinese drywall. You can find out, well, maybe if you think you might have it, but you're not quite sure, give us a call, and we can kind of walk you through the steps of what you should do from this point. Or if you have Chinese drywall and you are in the process of getting it taken care of, we'd love to hear your story. We'd love to hear, well, good stories, bad stories about how you're taking care of it. And, maybe Howard could still give you some ideas and thoughts on what the best direction for it is. So let's, again, 772-340-1590. Now, for the people who aren't quite aware of it, what would be some of the major signs? We talked about air conditioning coils. What would be some of the major signs that people could tell that they may have an issue?
There is an odor. It's an opinion on what the odor smells like, and I think it's kind of sweet, and it's sort of like a matchbook. It's not, to me, it's not unpleasant.
Okay.
So that's an indicator, but it's not always there. It throws people off when like, oh, well, my house doesn't smell, but it doesn't always have an odor. It's just common.
Okay.
But and then when you start cutting into the walls, then it kind of gets more prevalent. The blackened ground wires that are exposed, but a lot of times they're not always exposed.
Okay.
The liquid line on the outside of the air handler, sometimes that'll be black, and it's black, and you'll walk by it all day long, but you don't realize it.
And the liquid line he's talking about is the thinner of the two lines. You have two copper lines coming out of your air conditioner, and the thinner the one, I mean, it could be on the fatter one, but the thinner one,
The
you're saying,
uninsulated, yeah, the one that's not
the
insulated.
one, yeah, one, oh, obviously, because you can't see the other one that's inside. Boy, yeah, how long have I been in the air conditioning industry?
Yeah, we're trying to get out of it, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to get out of it. Yeah, so the smaller one is not insulated, so you can see it. So you'll notice it's black, and then if your air conditioning guy takes the cover off, you'll definitely see it on the inside.
Yeah,
too.
it's on the loops. The loops of the evaporator coil is what the air passes through. I mean, you can explain
Right.
it better than I can. But then the side loops are copper.
Okay.
And that's what gets black. That's the telltale sign.
So that'd be sure sign.
It's kind of like reading tea leaves. It's the if you have it throughout the entire house, it'd be black as the ace of spades. But when you get an older coil, and they have other environmental issues, and they only have a little bit of Chinese drywall, then it gets a little funky trying to read those coils.
Right.
And you can pretty much easily rule out Chinese drywall if it's the original coil, and there's no signs on it. You can pretty much rule out you don't have it, because even one sheet will show up on a coil, especially now.
One sheet anywhere in the house.
One sheet anywhere in the house will
Because
show up
what
on a
you're
coil.
doing is you're pulling the chemical reaction from that, you're pulling it through the air conditioner coil. So it doesn't have to be in the vicinity of the air conditioner.
Right.
But if it's in the house, typically that those chemicals will go through the air handler and will cause that blackening.
Yeah, and there is kind of a prorated effect where if it's closer to the air handler, because the sulfide, especially hydrogen sulfide, very volatile gas.
Okay.
It'll morph, and the closer it is to the coil, the more it'll react, and the more there is, the more it'll react.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and take our first break here. Remember, 772-340-1590. And for you folks listening online at Comfort Time Live, there's a chat room. If you have questions, and maybe you're a little on the shy side, go ahead and text your question in there in that chat room, and we'll go ahead and ask it live on the air.
Even if you're not shy.
Even if you're not shy. You're listening to Howard Ehrsam with Chinese Drywall and Comfort Time Live. We'll be right back.
No one expects disaster to happen to them, but when it does, you can be sure United Water Restoration will be there when you need them the most. They've been helping people put their homes and their lives back together for more than 15 years. With 24/7 service and 45 minutes to your door response time, you can trust United Water Restoration with your mold, water, fire, and smoke damage. Call for a free in-home inspection and estimate at 888-535-4909. United Water Restoration.
Elite Electric!
We can do it.
Elite Electric!
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric!
Ooh, amazing.
Elite Electric!
Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie.
Elite Electric specializes in all of your electrical needs, from security lighting to surge protection and everything in between. How do you think they got their name? Elite Electric. Elite Electric has been family owned and operated on the Treasure Coast since 1988, and they're recommended by Comfort Time Live. Visit online at eliteelectricandair.com and learn more about their services. Elite Electric. Service today. Proud sponsor of Comfort Time Live every Thursday evening at 6:05 on WPSL 1590.
No matter what you want, just pick up your phone, say, come on, Elite.
And we'll get the job done!
We can do it.
Elite Electric!
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric!
$3.2 billion per year are stolen from unsuspecting homeowners who lack the proper education to deal with home contractors. Hi, I'm Tom Platania with Comfort Time Live, heard every Friday morning at 11:05. Comfort Time Live is an independent call-in talk show focused on educating homeowners to protect themselves from unlicensed contractors as well as less than honest contractors. Go to ComfortTimeLive.com to see all our recorded shows, watch us live, or view tons of information to protect and educate yourself. That's Comfort Time Live every Friday morning at 11:05 here on WPSL.
And now back to Comfort Time Live. Once again, here's your host, Tom Platania.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 772-340-1590, the number to call here at the studio. If you want to ask Howard questions about Chinese drywall, do you have it? If you have it, what can you do to protect yourself? Now, there's different people out there. Obviously, they're not Howard, because I wouldn't have those people on my show because I trust and respect you. And but what people out there, what can a homeowner do to know that that person coming in their house knows enough about what they're doing to say that it is Chinese drywall or they have an issue? What should they look out for?
There's a full spectrum. You'll get people that know what they're doing and that have the experience, and they're ethical and they do all the right stuff. Then you'll get people that aren't ethical but they know what they're doing. Then you get the people that don't know what they're doing but they're ethical.
Well, we don't believe in those last two at all. We don't believe in the people that know what they're doing but aren't ethical. We throw them off the show, and we don't deal with people that have no clue what they're doing but are ethical.
So you get the full spectrum. And then some people, some are a little naive as far as they think they've seen it enough, and so they're a little naive on. And then you get into the lower, only a little bit of a Chinese drywall in there,
Right.
maybe in one room, so they don't see the typical case. They spot check some receptacles and they're like, oh, you're good to go.
Okay.
Meanwhile, it's in half the house.
Oh,
And that's where you can get, or the coil was replaced, because some of the stuff that we look for either fraud. There's plenty of cases where the seller had it and they replaced the coil. They did clean some things up. So you got to look for those kinds of things on these inspections.
So they need to start having a document like the lead. So do you know if you have Chinese? Do they have something like that?
Oh yeah.
They do.
Real estate. You got to.
Oh, they have a Chinese drywall.
Oh yeah.
Oh, very
Absolutely.
nice, very nice.
Absolutely.
Well, we have a caller. We have Barbara on the line with us. Good evening, Barbara.
Good evening.
How are you, young lady?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And do you have a question for Howard?
Well, not really, but I see on that it said that the drywall was built with the homes and started in 2004. And I just wanted to say that my house has Chinese drywall. I live in Delray Beach, Florida, and my house was built in 2001.
Yeah, there's a lot of publications out there that say 2004, and I don't have out of about 3,000 inspections that I've done, not a single one in 04. It's and 03. Those 2 years, it's 01 and 02, and there's only one type. That was Barao, which is a part of Lafarge.
Right.
And that's the type that you would have.
Yes, I do.
It's the purple dot made in China, and it's very, very unique. And that's the only type in those 2 years. And then it was a dry spell, and then 05, 06 was peak. So if you kind of graphed it, it started 05, and then 06 is like peak year, and then 07, 08, and it kind of drops off. But yeah, that's a common misconception that people don't realize that 01 and 02. There is a decent amount of that, and a lot of it is in Southeast Florida. And Vero has some, but Delray Beach. That's actually my very first inspection was in Delray Beach.
Now, have you had anyone come out and look at that, Barbara?
As far as what, testing?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're in litigation.
Oh, you are? Okay.
We're in the final. We didn't do very well. We're now just trying to. We're in the class action suit with the non-Knauf case against the installer.
Okay.
I just want it to end so we can finally make a decision on what we want to do. We want to really get out of here. I don't know if we can afford to gut it. Actually, it's we really haven't been able to get enough money from the cases, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you're in a tough one, and that's an oddball because it's part of a Lafarge and part of a global one. And Lafarge has some domestic holdings, and I've been kind of surprised that there hasn't been more movement on that type. And I wish I had more of an update on that particular type. And hopefully maybe there's an attorney that can call in or give an update on that. because the non-Knauf types, the Taishan, there's it ended up with a $50 million pool that for the global settlement to share, and everybody's kind of waiting. The door closed, so now they have everybody's registered, and they're going to do it based on dollar per square foot.
Right.
So if they're going to add up all the square footage of all the claims into $50 million, and then that's the dollar per foot. Then they're going to multiply that times your square footage, and that's how much you get.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess,
let's hope we have a lot of
maybe $5 to $10 a foot. That's a wild guess, but that's.
It's about what? What did you say?
My wild guess,
Yeah.
based on and I know more than most, but if you just think about the amount of claims and what I'm hoping for, because I have my own condo with it, so I'm hoping to boost my own claim up. I'm hoping that, and there's a lot of people that walked away that it was kind of their get out of jail free card, so they let the property go, and so I'm hoping that the amount of claims that were actually filed versus ones that registered that are going through with it is a lot less. Because if half of them actually went through with it, that's twice the money for us that have it. So I'm very anxious to see how that's actually going to shake out, and that should be maybe end of this year, early next year. We'll know exactly.
So there's a
how
lot
much
of
that is.
small houses, so the square footage, we get more money per square foot.
Yeah.
Well, my house is small. It's only 1522.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the problem is you probably have it throughout the entire place.
Oh, sure.
And yeah.
And we're senior citizens, on a fixed income.
Yeah, and it's tough because there's no way you're going to get enough money to gut it and to do it right.
Right. So you think it's going to come to about $10 a square foot?
It's a wild guess. If
Yeah,
it was
a wild
10,
guess.
I mean, I'd be pleasantly surprised if it was 10.
You notice how you said 5 to 10, and she just picked the 10 number.
Yeah, I know.
5 to 10. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's my. If I was a betting man, I'd put it on there. But I'm hoping for more and then fearing for less. Put it that way.
All right, from your lips to God's ears.
Yeah.
Barbara, thank you so very much for calling.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And hopefully, if some of you other folks have questions, comments,
I got a question.
you do.
Well, you hear all these bad things about Chinese drywall. Are there any cases where nothing happens at all and everything seems okay? Does it have to react with copper? Is there a chance out there that some of it you don't have to worry about?
Well, there's non-corrosive Chinese drywall. That makes it complicated even more when you got Chinese drywall with the made in China and the Chinese markings, and it's non-corrosive. And it's got some characteristics like high strontium. Strontium is an indicator that they can use to map, and it's a naturally occurring element that happens to be in the ground in China. So but it doesn't have the toxic cocktail that actually makes it corrosive. But if it's corrosive, it's corroding. And if you want to just keep replacing the air handler or the coil, or get a coated coil so it'll last longer, there's different things you could do, and then just it'll eventually it eats electronics and it becomes costly. And if you don't have the health issues, everybody has always asked me like, what about the health issues? And I hear so much.
But there was one I laughed about. Some lady said her dog got a brain tumor.
Oh, yeah, birds dying. I had one inspection. My bird died. I'm like, hey, maybe it is a China. I don't know. But there's a lot of people blame it unnecessarily. But
we knew the cat did it.
Yeah, cat hair falling out. A lot of people, whether it's people or their pets, the hair falling out. That's another complaint.
Has there ever been any proof of that?
No.
Okay.
And there's a
My
lot
hair
of.
is falling out. Do I have Chinese drywall?
Yeah, but look at
your
me. I mean, hell, that's what happens. That's the sacrifices I make.
All right, let's go to Joe. We have Joe online. Hey, Joe, welcome to Comfort Time Live.
Yes, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm doing awesome. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. I'm actually a building contractor.
Okay.
And I'm trying to find out, is there any other way to remove or to treat the Chinese drywall without just ripping it all out and cleaning it up?
Yeah, there is. It's somewhat controversial, pros and cons. There's several companies out there that have in situ treatments. That's basically how I phrase it. In situ meaning in the situation where they keep it in place and they treat the actual drywall.
What are they treating it for?
They're looking to neutralize, basically oxidize, if I'm terming this appropriately, the chemicals that are in there and kill the bacteria. And it also goes into the bacteria theory. That bacteria is one of the causes. And the idea is to stop the reaction that is actually causing the sulfide gas which is you got carbonyl sulfide, copper sulfide, hydrogen sulfide. Those gases are the main culprits. So if you can do something to the drywall that stops that reaction, that stops that off-gassing, or lessens it, that's the key, and that's what I've seen. Nothing takes it to zero as far as no more off-gassing, but one rule of thumb is if you can get it below outside, then if outside's fine, then why wouldn't it be fine for inside? So there's different schools of thought.
Sure.
And I've seen different treatments work where it took it down below maybe 20% of outside, and that's successful. And I've seen it go down to non-detect. So I've seen different treatments do different things.
Do these treatments have names?
Yeah, yep. One, I'm always apprehensive on talking too much about names and recommending, referring, but
Well, we're not recommending. We're trying to get more data on it, you know.
yeah,
Especially if you get a whole house full of Chinese drywall, you got a real problem. Okay, with a lot of cost and you know, all kinds of problems. Okay.
right. And I've seen have different effects. You could probably just Google it and then see what you get some hits with. The one of them uses it saturates the drywall, and I don't want to misspeak on the product either. So I'm always worried about put my foot in my mouth when I start talking about different things. But molecular cleanse was one that I was developing my corrosion test, because I got actually a patent application out for patent pending on a corrosion test that I actually measure corrosion in micrograms per centimeter squared, and it comes very handy when you're trying to quantify the corrosion. Mm-hmm. And trying to certify a place that's free and clear of corrosive gases, and in certain applications, it's been proven to be a very good test. And it's a very sensitive test. So I was actually developing that test while he was developing his product, and I was pleasantly surprised to see a positive result, and it was good. But it's very tricky. It's there's pros and cons that you have to look at, and
well, is it just killing the bacteria, or because I'm not sure that you would get the product without the bacteria.
Right, you have the sulfur, the elemental sulfur, and then you have the bacteria. And I'm no chemist, so I want to caveat that. So I don't want anybody chemists calling in saying
what is the chemistry? I mean, where did the sulfur come from?
Sulfur came from basically it was like a sulfur vein running through the mine, so it was scooped up with the gypsum. So it was the elemental sulfur that was in the actual raw product that made it into the manufacturing process.
Really?
And I think they didn't have the proper, like you were saying, the proper checks and balances on there, so that stuff didn't get taken out, didn't get cleaned properly. The mixing bins, I think they were talking about.
Yeah, and they should have just right from the beginning when you're mining it, and you got the issues and the odor and all that stuff. It's bad material to start with, so you just don't even use it.
And then my other question was, is I heard through whatever all the people talking that they ended up spraying the drywall when they shipped it to keep the mold from growing on it with a sulfur-based antifungal.
I've heard stuff about that, and there was some theories that maybe that had something to do with it. Never heard much more if that really had any merit to it. I've seen giant cargo ships just with deplorable conditions that the drywall was in.
Oh yeah,
it's just just nasty stuff.
Awesome.
It's hard to believe that they installed it and didn't know it was bad.
Yeah, some of them did. One of my inspectors.
You got to be kidding me. Okay.
Funny. One of my inspectors actually installed it back in the day.
Really?
So yeah, it's one of the reasons I hired him, because he knew where it was, and he actually remembers putting it up, and it's like it's more brittle, it's heavier, and it stunk when it was going up. But a lot of them thought, well, it'll go away. The next thing it didn't go away.
Well, let me ask you this: if you go in and you put some material on this and you do this quote cleanse, okay, how do you know that the integrity of the drywall is still there?
Well, I don't. Good question. To me, I've seen it still there, because you're just kind of. It's like getting drywall. If you get drywall wet and let it dry out, you don't have to replace it.
Well, we know that it's made of water, so that's one thing. I mean, it was made from water to start with. Okay, so it can accept water. what I'm concerned with is, okay, I know that they supposedly only sent half-inch drywall here. Okay, what about the 5/8 that's fire coated?
Yeah,
Right.
no, there's been no cases of 5/8 at all. So it's only the 12-foot sheets of half-inch that's been bad.
I see. And they have no test or anything when they sent it into the country. They just
Right through the border, right into the marketplace. Not even with an outdated ASTM stamp on it that had nothing to do with
There
the
was a
elemental
lot of money waiting.
composition of it.
Let's push it through. There's a lot of money waiting.
Yeah, there's been some changes since then,
Oh.
so at least we got that.
All right, Joe. Well, hey, we appreciate you.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks.
I appreciate the information.
You're welcome. And stay tuned. We got some more. We got another caller. We're going to go to David. Actually, we're going to have to go to we'll do David, then we'll go to a break afterwards. Hey, David, how you doing, buddy?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Questions, comments, suggestions?
Yeah, it's interesting that the ASTM specification was derived to only say that the defect was only due to elemental sulfur. I had detected my drywall with only high levels of strontium and high levels of iron with an XRF test device. When I went back to the builder and says, well, okay, that's a marker, they tried to discredit that the XRF test really wasn't conclusive, but it is a marker. In my case, I had no elemental sulfur, but my wife had massive nosebleeds. I had all kinds of respiratory issues. And what I had found out is that I tore some of the drywall out and found out it was no name. There was absolutely no labels, no nothing except that clear white elastic tape on the end caps.
Yep.
So
I've seen a lot of that.
Right. So just because there's no signs of elemental sulfur, you can still have Chinese drywall, and you can still have outgassing due to the the high levels, the high dew point levels, and the humidity levels that get raised if you go on vacation or whatnot. But this whole thing is just a complete nightmare because there's 90,000 homes built with Chinese drywall, and maybe 10% of the people know, and they're just trying to wash this under the under the carpet. But the problem is huge, and we really need to get our congressmen and senators rallied around this because, as far as I'm concerned, if you have any kind of Chinese drywall, it needs to go.
Yeah, there's a debatable thought there. And I've seen a lot of non-corrosive drywall. Now, as far as the S8, which is the cycloorthorhombic cyclosulfate, something like that, elemental sulfur test, it's the best test for. And then if anything shows up on that test, then it's in that there's a correlation between that and corrosion. So that the drywall that you mentioned, is it corrosive? Is it blackening copper and silver?
No.
Yes, it is?
No, it's not.
Well, then to me, I've seen a lot of that type of drywall it's not problematic. It doesn't off-gas because it's not corrosive, but it is high in strontium, and that's because that is a marker.
That's not my case. My wife had massive nosebleeds. My kid had eczema the size of softballs. I sneezed like a guinea pig.
Yeah, most of those cases, not saying that this is your case, but
Right.
most of the cases I've seen in that, it's turned out to be something else besides the drywall.
What made you think it was the drywall?
Because I pulled out 2,300 square feet of half-inch drywall that had absolutely no label on it, nothing, no identification. It was called no-name Chinese drywall.
Yeah, that's typical. There's corrosive that has no name on it. Some of them just has a small little letter A, B, or C.
Right.
A lot of it has just the size on it. It says half inch by 4 feet by 12 feet drywall.
Right.
So there's different varieties of that. But I've seen a lot of that type of drywall that's just not corrosive. There's nothing wrong with the actual drywall itself.
Yeah, but not in my case. Not in my case, and I took it all the way to the feds.
Oh, that's where I guess there's one in every crowd.
Yeah.
Now, what else did you do when you took the drywall out?
I remediated it, and that's all I had to do because it didn't have any signs of elemental sulfur, but there was absolutely no labeling whatsoever on the drywall except for a clear white, that milky white tape on the end caps. Clearly was Chinese drywall. When you Google it, there it is.
Yep. So all the health issues go away? All the health issues went away?
When I removed all the drywall out, it all went away. Sure.
No.
And the house didn't stink. The house stunk. It had this really strange smell, and it also felt like a wet cave.
There's been other issues too. There's some the paper, and there's been other drywall cases. And I got a partner company, Healthy Home Solutions in New Orleans, and he's seen some really kind of funky stuff with different types of drywall, and we have like we call them geek out sessions, and we will just get into the details. And there's some other funky twists and turns to the drywall that there's other issues besides the typical corrosive and the sulfur content. That it's something else.
Exactly.
So yours seems like I guess it was the drywall, but it's just something else going on.
No, it is exactly it. It's called volatile organic compounds, VOCs, in the paper. So when they use the water in China, they don't filter it, so you're getting poo-poo and pee-pee in there.
Yeah, and I think VOCs, like in the urine formaldehydes in furniture, are worse for you than Chinese drywall. So
there's VOCs throughout your house. We talk about that in air conditioning all the time. VOCs.
Yep.
They're actually one of the biggest causes of coils breaking.
Right.
But the good thing is, David, is that it was taken care of. Unfortunately, you had to go through that mess to make it happen.
Right. It cost me $30,000, and I almost lost the house. And I tried to sue the builder, and the builder said, "You can't do anything." I said, "Who's the manufacturer?" Well, they weren't going to tell me, because they knew it was Chinese drywall. See,
Right.
The problem is when you get into these disclosures, if you have evidence of Chinese drywall, you have to disclose it. And now I'm seeing that the banks are even going ahead and putting homes back on the market with elemental sulfur.
Right.
I mean, the black oxide, the house stinks, and legally they can still do that.
All right. Well, hey, Dave, we really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your information with the rest of our listeners, because I know that that's probably something that, somebody else might be thinking. They've had it inspected, and, hey, there's one in every crowd. I mean, I do that when I go to crowds.
Yeah. You got to get to the end caps. That tells the story.
That's it. Awesome. Well, David, thank you very much. We're going to go take another quick break. When we come back, we got a couple other people on the line. Do not go away. You're listening to Howard Ehrsam.
Elite Electric.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
Ooh, amazing.
Elite Electric.
Woogie, 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 woogie.
Elite Electric specializes in all of your electrical needs, from security lighting to surge protection and everything in between. How do you think they got their name? Elite Electric. Elite Electric has been family owned and operated on the Treasure Coast since 1988, and they're recommended by Comfort Time Live. Visit online at eliteelectricandair.com and learn more about their services. Elite Electric. Service today. Proud sponsor of Comfort Time Live every Thursday evening at 6:05 on WPSL 1590.
No matter what you want, just pick up your phone, say, "Come on, Elite."
And we'll get the job done.
We can do it.
Elite Electric.
There's nothing to it.
Elite Electric.
The Sunshine State can sometimes get wet and windy fast. United Water Restoration Group is here to help. As one of the largest water damage restoration companies covering the state of Florida, their team of highly trained water, fire, and mold remediation experts are here to help, arriving at your house within 45 minutes of your call, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you have a leak, mold, fire, or home damage issue, call for a free in-home inspection and estimate. 888-535-4909.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
And now back to Comfort Time Live with Tom Platania.
All right, we are back. We're with our co-host Howard Ehrsam talking about Chinese drywall. We've had a lot of great questions, but we have Larry on the line with us. Larry, good evening.
Good evening. How you doing, Howard?
Doing all right.
Good. We got the drywall with the toxic cocktail.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you had any experience with moss and any input on their timelines of, like, from signing the work agreement to when they get started or anything like that.
Yeah. Actually, I knew Moss back when my developer days. They're a commercial contractor, family owned, good reputation, and basically Knauf had $1 billion settlement. This is for some of the listeners, and you might already know this, but if you had the Knauf type, which is also KPT, the German type, Moss is the court-appointed construction manager for all the remediation, and they will hire local contractors to do the actual work, and then they oversee the entire program. And you need that upper level, the commercial type of contractor to see the whole thing. I've heard lots of positive things with Moss. They run a great, a tight ship, and they're handling the program really well. There's in small cases of cleaning contractors and this and that and little complaints here and there, but that's the local contractors, and you're always going to have that. I've seen there was one of my clients. He went from my inspection to being moved back in after remediation in 6 months, and that was an unusual case because timing-wise, they were scheduled. They try and group houses together and work neighborhoods together, so that was like the best case scenario where they were already kind of planning on getting into that neighborhood. One of the worst cases.
How long ago was that? Recently, or
yeah, maybe a year ago that they moved back in. It's a process. I've heard a lot of I can say a lot, but I've heard complaints about taking too long. Well, any time is too long, but that it's and then if it's not a typical slam dunk case, if you're the original owner, KPT throughout, it's not mixed, and you're in a community, usually it's a pretty quick response. If it's mixed, it's a kind of a game changer because now it's the way the mixed properties, the settlement would work. You'd actually have to pony up the percent difference and put it in escrow. So if they do their tests and they have different ways to do it, and if they calculate 31% Knopf, they'll round it to 40%. But then you got to put 60% of their estimate into escrow.
You're talking about mixed types of drywall in the house?
Well, mixed Chinese types, corrosive types. And it's basically two buckets. Taishan, whether it's Dragon, Bedrock, or a bunch of other ones, they kind of just the non-Knopf. So, and it's kind of the Taishan stuff. So if it's a non-Knopf with Knopf, then it's a mixed property. And that's Moss won't do those typically. So that will take longer. That gets a little more complicated, and it's a little different scenario.
Any experience with how long it takes from signing the work agreement to when work starts?
Yeah, I would say probably within a month. I would think it's there's a series that they have to go through. They'll some documentation that they go through. If you're in a situation where the settlement's executed and you're ready for them to start.
That's correct.
How long has that been?
Howard, it's been 5 years.
Ooh, whoa. There wasn't a settlement 5 years ago.
No. Well, probably several months.
Several months, okay.
Since first contact with Moss.
So when they presented you the settlement agreement that you have to, the $850 a foot, $1050 a foot, whatever it is that pertains to you that they give you to move out,
right?
And then the terms of the settlement. How long has it been since that document has been signed by both parties?
Yeah, the work agreement, 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you're probably a few weeks away. Then you're going to get a notice for move out.
Right.
And then have you gotten that notice yet?
Not yet, but
it's coming. And then
We're packed, Howard.
Yeah, I bet you are. Just be happy. You're one of you got the good bad stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so you're
bad toxic cocktail.
Yeah.
Is there such thing?
Yeah, and the program was set up the best way you could, with all the challenges that it has. The unfortunate part is that the door's closing, and my understanding is that at the end of this month the door's closed. No more new. You're out. You'll be outside looking in, as far as getting into the claim and getting remediated.
All right, so that's an important note, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to that. Is that there's a window of opportunity that if you have a claim that needs to be filed, you need to get on the bandwagon as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you may not have that opportunity.
Yep. And then a lot of the attorneys have just stopped taking cases altogether. They're not taking any more clients. And then I have a whole new appreciation for the attorneys. I'll tell you what. Because they've had to pony up all these expenses they're shelling out some serious bucks, and they've yet to get paid.
Well,
And-
attorneys, they don't make any money anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
the payday at the end will
they
probably
drive
be pretty good.
They drive around in Hyundais and they live in little one-bedroom
Yeah.
shacks and
Yeah.
you know.
So yeah, they'll get a good payday, but yeah, they've kind of stretched the resources out and they've kind of taken all they can. At least that's my opinion.
Well, hey Larry, I'd love to hear back from you when you do get that letter and you get the ball rolling on everything. We'd love to hear back from you.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
I appreciate it, Larry.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Larry. 772-340-1590. The number to call if you have questions. Having a little technical issue online. Looks like we're still recording the show, but you weren't. I don't think we were able to get back on.
One good thing about that I do know about the Ustream recording is that if there's a problem with the stream and it's recording, when you stop the recording at the end of the show, they'll be able to watch it right afterwards.
Good.
The archive will be there.
Yeah, so we are still recording. So if you're not able to view online, once the show's over and we get to a good internet connection or whatnot, that you'll be able to see the whole entire show, be able to listen to it all over again. But obviously, if you're listening on the radio, well, there's not any issue at all. But that'll be great. We'll be able to watch that show over and over again. So now what legal actions can be taken? We're talking about attorneys. What can people do if they know that they have it but they have not contacted anybody? First off, what's your number that they can contact you or someone in your office if they want to kind of ask some questions?
Yeah, I got a toll-free number, 855-CDW-HELP, and I can never remember what those numbers are. And it's also the local number is 772-224-8660.
All right.
That'll also
for
go.
some of us people that are really slow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess I gotta do
like
that.
me.
Yeah. So
you said 7. I know there was a 7 in that number.
Yeah. So we'll go. So toll free.
Okay.
Is 855.
Okay.
CDW.
Say Charlie, dog,
Chinese
whiskey.
Drywall.
Chinese drywall. There you go.
So yeah, it's 855 CDW help.
Help. Chinese drywall.
Just
help.
remember that, and we don't have to bother writing it down.
Okay. All right. Just go ahead and remember that for you guys to call. We have another caller on the line. We have Sean. Sean, good evening.
Hi.
How are we doing today?
I'm doing well. I actually work with quite a bit of Chinese drywall, and I'm over out of Louisiana.
Oh, okay, great.
Sean McCumber.
Hey,
that
how you doing,
voice
Howard?
all so familiar. We spent hours on the phone together, commiserating, collaborating, and all that good stuff, because we're both victims ourselves.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So tell us your experience, Sean.
Oh, well, do we have time? I know it's called a little late, I know. I mean, the long and the short of it is I redid my house after Hurricane Katrina over here in Slidell, Louisiana. We had a real shortage of drywall at the time. I mean, I had one guy, I'm a contractor. I had a guy who I basically paid to sit in front of one of the box stores with a trailer waiting for the trucks to come in with drywall, and they would basically unload the drywall off of the flatbed semi-trucks as they were coming in, and you would just be in line, and they would go through as many trailers as they could, and then you would just sit there and wait until another trailer came in. So it was very difficult to get drywall. And these signs started popping up all around town that said, 4x12 drywall, $10 a sheet, delivered. So you're working on a house, and we did 92 houses after Katrina.
Now, what did drywall cost before that per sheet?
It ran in that neighborhood, $10.
Oh, so even though there was a supply and demand issue, they were still charging about the same price.
Well, at this point, it was starting to climb. At this point, it was starting to climb. So you were starting to see, and we were paying about $12 a sheet in the box stores.
Uh-huh.
We're paying about $12 a sheet. It was starting to climb, but the climb primarily after Katrina was not in materials cost necessarily, though they did start to climb a little bit later after. But this was about late 2006, 2007. I mean, it was absolutely insane, but right after Katrina. But by then, it started to settle in. At that point, you were paying for labor. I mean, those guys were charging $90 a board labor just to hang tape and float.
Wow.
Outlandish, And so they started popping up. I called the guy. He said he could deliver it within 3 days. I said, need 265 sheets. They delivered it. He said, and this was not an unusual situation at the time, but he said, you can either go to the office and pay there with a check and then wait for the check to clear or you can pay me cash.
So how many of these houses did you end up having to rip out afterwards?
I did one with Chinese drywall, and I'll tell you why. It happened to be at the time I was redoing my personal house. But of the 92 houses I did, I only did one, and that's because my hanger, I showed up.
You only did one knowingly that it was Chinese drywall, or you're saying
I only did one at all.
Oh, at all. Okay, I see.
Yeah, we went back and checked them. We did not have them, and like I said, most of the time we were getting it from the box trucks,
right?
Box stores,
So now, how do you guys collaborate when you guys are back and forth? And
Howard and I?
Yeah.
Oh, well, so we both ended up meeting at the Bessie conference in 2009.
Okay.
Which was like the initial, I don't know if you guys talked about how that kind of came to fruition. We both kind of realized that we were doing very similar things and that we had very similar experiences.
Now, is he helping you out there? Is he coming across some stuff?
We see some markings. We see this, we see that. We got
kind of sharing
the corrosion testing that we're doing back and forth.
Yeah.
And then, I got this case, but I see this corrosion here, this there, and like this, Sean did like a 300-unit apartment complex with selective type stuff.
We had a lot of the selective potential because of the fact that we were not dealing with new construction homes. We were dealing with homes that had flooded to a certain level.
Yeah,
a lot of times
renovations.
We were dealing places where they only had 4 foot of drywall that was changed
right.
in a house originally built in the 1970s or something like that.
So we're actually running a little out of time, but I was very interested, because Sean did like a 300-unit apartment complex.
Okay.
You must have saved him, a couple $1 million on the remediation?
We estimated about $3.5 million.
And you got 10% of that?
I wish. Well,
so there's a lot that goes into the assessment and the environmental certification. Yeah. And you really it's tricky, and you really got to know what you're doing. And so Sean and I, and you always got to be able to bounce something off each other. So we're sounding boards.
It's good that you have that, especially with something that's new like this, that there's not a lot of information and training out there. And being able to have somebody as intelligent as you two guys back and forth, it really makes a big difference. And we're short on time, Sean, so we'd love to have you back on the show again next time Howard comes back on.
Definitely. I apologize for calling in so late.
That's okay. That's okay. And as long as you don't mind us kicking you off.
No, kick us off. Next time, let's talk about how we did this selective removal because it is possible.
Beautiful. Awesome, right. Sean. Well, hey, I want to thank all of our callers and Howard. Man, glad to have you back. I'm glad that I'm still here to be able to have you back.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do another show like this. I think there's still a lot.
Yeah, we could. I think when the money goes out, people don't have enough money to remediate the whole place. We got to figure out what can you do? How can you do it?
There you go. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to Comfort Time Live. Remember, next Thursday, John from Elite Electric and Air right here on Comfort Time Live. Have a great weekend. Take care.
You've been listening to Comfort Time Live, heard Thursday evenings in the 6 o'clock hour right here on Digital 1590. One of the many reasons why we're the talk of the Treasure Coast.